Shabbat Shalom. This morning, let's visit a museum together. The museum has only one display space, and within it there are 4 exhibits. Come and join me there. We'll take a look. The room is lit, but not too brightly. In it are 4 glass cases that stretch from floor to ceiling, and inside each case is a piece of clothing. In the first case is a coat. One sleeve is so well preserved that you can still see its multicolored striping, an extraordinary feat of artistry from the anonymous dyer who created the fabric. But walk around the case and it's a different story. Over half of the coat is ripped to shreds, which have painstakingly been reassembled, leaving the gaps showing. The second sleeve looks as though it has been clawed from shoulder to hem by some kind of animal, a tiger maybe. And all of the coat, especially the torn part, is besmirched with dark, ancient, threatening stains, a grim narrative of a fight that the coat clearly lost. The second case holds a loincloth. It's beautifully preserved, this one, elegant, with intricate folds, still almost white, with one long end of the fabric left trailing. It looks like a gift wrapped up with a ribbon that is calling to us to pull on it and see what unravels. Its simplicity itself is a temptation. In the third case, a rich robe, linen, says the sign, with gold and silver thread embroidered on it so densely that the underlying fabric is completely invisible. The collar piece is round and so wide that it sits beyond the line of the shoulders. It's encrusted with turquoise gems between the threads. This must have been almost impossible to wear and still remain upright, but it holds itself now with majesty, as if inviting some deity to inhabit it. And in the fourth case is a shroud. Not just any shroud, but a human-sized composition of bandages overlaid on each other, a form rendered in outline. The sign on the case tells us that the mummified remains within are on show in a different museum, leaving us to marvel at the pure form, at the carapace that has been left behind. And the name over the door of the room is Joseph. We hardly know what any of our ancestors wore. Jacob puts on a disguise, but we don't know how he was dressed before then. Rebecca and Moses both have veils. Elijah has a hairy animal skin as a mantle, and Saul has a cloak. But we know of 4 changes of costume for Joseph, who seems constantly to be losing his clothes and being given others. And they make up the iterations of his story, and they are the way that we remember him. Son, then slave, then ruler, then relic. We might notice how the pattern of his clothes gets him into trouble as he makes his trajectory from showiness to impoverishment and back up to majesty and ultimately to silence. We might ask if, as his clothes changed, he remembered his previous costumes or whether he just moved on from those former versions of himself. Do his externals change as part of a search for a deeper expression of who he truly was, or was he simply propelled by external forces that clothed and unclothed him, whether he asked for it or not? We can only speculate. In particular, we might notice the manner of his burial. As Judaism evolves, it becomes illegal for us to treat a body the way that Joseph's was treated, embalmed and mummified, wrapped in bandages, put into a sarcophagus, all part of the same Egyptian rubric of trying to hold on to life beyond the boundary of death. And so it's ironic that by the time the people he founded get to the end of their desert journey, his name has vanished from the community. His children, Ephraim and Manasseh, carry the family line, but we do not hear more about Joseph. He slips out of the narrative as easily, it seems, as he slips out of his clothes. The museum I described can only exist in our imagination. And yet it's easy to picture that museum because of the detail of the clothes. But what happens if we listen as well as looking? Bigdei Yosef, the clothes of Joseph. The Hebrew word for a piece of clothing is beged, and this root means act or deal treacherously, fruitlessly, deceitfully, in marriage, in matters of property or right, in covenants, in word, and in general conduct. Thank you, Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew Dictionary. Always there when you need it. So a beged, a piece of clothing, is quite literally a cover-up. Now, I'm not saying that human beings should stop wearing clothes because we need them. We need them to protect us. We have fragile bodies, and we wear them also to shore up our identities or to project a status, to differentiate ourselves from each other. And we quickly form opinions from what we wear or what others are wearing. But our clothes never tell the truth. Consider what they hide. Outside of specific periods in our lives, like the ripped clothing marking Shiva, we can't tell whether a person is feeling joy or grief from how they dress. Our clothes cover up our scars. They disguise the fact that all of us, every single one of us, is aging. They say nothing about our inherent worth and our inherent dignity. And they literally don't last. There is a whole industry directed at helping us to throw them away and acquire others instead when they move out of line with how we want to or are told to present ourselves, regardless of what it costs in people and in resources. So clothing can only ever tell part of our story. It doesn't matter how many times Joseph changed his outfit, his clothes can only ever give us a version of him. So the museum that I described cannot be Joseph's legacy. Something else is. The Joseph story always coincides with Hanukkah. Even, and I looked this up, even when we had Hanukkah coinciding with Thanksgiving, we were reading this parsha. And on Shabbat Hanukkah, we always read today's Haftarah. And there, within that Haftarah, is the golden key that will unlock the truth of Joseph's story and of his legacy. That key is the menorah, the golden lampstand that graced both the Mishkan and the temple. We have to roll the Torah a little way forward to understand. Come with me. The first time that we encounter the menorah is when we're given the directions for making it, along with the instructions for making all the rest of the sanctuary. There's a lot of gold involved. The ark, the table for the bread, even the walls of the inner sanctum are overlaid with gold. And we have specific dimensions for every item except the menorah. Because the menorah was created out of a single gold ingot and hammered into shape, we have no idea how big it was. That would have depended on the skill of the craftsman who made it. We only know that it was whole. V'asita menorat zahav tahor. Make a menorah out of the purest gold. Miksha ta'aseh ha-menorah. Hammered out the menorah shall be. Yerecha v'kana givieha kaftolecha ufrachecha mimena ihyu. Its base and its shaft, its cups and its calyxes and its petals shall be of itself, mimena, one piece. The menorah can only ever be what it is. It has no inside and no outside. What we see is exactly what we get. Its appearance and its essence are one and the same. It has absolute integrity. And so does the one part of Joseph that does leave Egypt. We know that on his deathbed, Joseph made his family swear to bring his bones back to the land of Canaan. And we know also that in the deep midnight of the Exodus, Moses found those bones and took them with him across the Red Sea. And we know from the book of Joshua, that very interesting book that we never read properly, that they were finally laid to rest, not by Moses, but by the Bnei Yisrael, the people in Shechem, which according to Rashi is the very place from which Joseph was first stolen. So it's not the torn coat or the skimpy loincloth or the golden robe or even the shroud that are Joseph's legacy to us. It is his bones and not his story that go to build our community. The Hebrew word for bone is etzem, and etzem also means essence. Atzmei Yosef, Joseph's essence, Joseph's truth. At this dark time of year that turns us inwards, let's pay attention to the way that we surround ourselves with distractions. Let's consider the way we cover ourselves up and pass judgment and judge others from our outer coverings and their comments and their avatars and the ways that they present that were created by intelligences that have their source not in integrity, but in artifice. Ultimately, it's up to us how we choose to see each other. Will it be beged or etzem? Will we be fooled by the treachery, or will we look deeper and search for the truth? As we come out of the dark this winter, let the light of the Hanukkah candles help us look past all the disguises and see the pure menorah within. Shabbat Shalom.